This stone has stood for countless days on the mountain. Since my youth, they've said that his remains lie within it. Unbegotten, undying, such is the nature of a stone monkey. Though his body was broken, his spirit endures. Into 6 relics he turned, and separately they escaped, choosing to stay hidden. Those are the 6 senses of the great sage. Yet no one has ever seen them, not in centuries. I'm old now. Venture through all the lands I cannot. Yet among you, there might be one who is destined. One that shall recover all his scattered relics. And upon the return of the relics to Mount Tuaguo, he may yet rise again.
Based on the 16th century East Asian novel Journey to the West, Black Myth Wukong follows the story of the Destined One, a young reincarnation of Sun Wukong, who has to travel various realms to recover the 6 relics from the mythical Yaoguai, also known as the Celestial Beings. During his quests, the main character will be encountering numerous enemies, some of which proving to be a truly taxing undertaking to overcome. Luckily, the Destined One also meets a few charming creatures that lend him a hand to help carry that burden. The prologue immediately introduces scale on epic proportions as the original Sun Wukong floats into the fray against the army of the 4 heavenly kings, led by his old nemesis, Erlang, the sacred divinity. After their world-trembling clash, Erlang takes the upper hand and crushes the titular character into the top of a mountain, so ending the last tale of Sun Wukong. And as one tale ends, so does another begin. The story can be vague at times due to the scarcity of explanations and background information, due to the transitions between chapters feeling slightly disjointed and abrupt. The player gets thrown in these different realms without a firm understanding of what's going on. Those who are more acquainted with the source material would have an easier time navigating the world. Those who aren't familiar with the book, however, will probably have to spend some time on research. The main character is silent and often appears emotionless, which makes it tougher to genuinely feel invested in him. While many games have nailed the silent protagonist framework, Black Myth never really meets the requirements for it to join the ranks. Your connection with the Destined One will deepen as you progress along in the story, yet this has more to do with the amount of time spent with him, rather than the quality of that time. The characters Wukong engages with are perpetuous and entertaining, yet some don't seem to have any arc or individual perspectives other than providing you with stuff after you've completed their objectives. Other than the fact that boss battles were highly entertaining, Their personalities were only represented through limited screen time. The game doesn't give you substantial time and room to become invested in the antagonists and their relationship with the Destined One. The story itself does present interesting turn of events in each chapter, allowing each section to feel fresh and authentic. Throughout the 40 hours of content, the game managed to solidly retain its momentum. While it's true that Chapter 3 takes a significant chunk of the game to complete, the narrative never became repetitive nor stale. It feels good to complete a chapter, but it would have been thoughtful if your accomplishments were more deeply represented after restoring realms to their former glory upon revisiting them. There isn't much consequence like The Witcher 3 did so brilliantly. Now that is a high bar not every game should be expected to match, but at least a little sign of consequence would have elevated the story significantly. On a final note, Act 3, more specifically Chapter 6, felt a bit weak and rushed considering how long all the other chapters were. The map was vague and unstructured, which might cause the player to spend hours roaming around, stumbling on what you have to find and do to progress. Black Myth is somewhat being compared to God of War, and while the combat mechanics and immersion truly are on the level, the depth and story and its characters could have received more attention. While I'm of the opinion that not every game needs the same quality and depth of storytelling and character building, I would be remiss not to mention how much more impactful the overall experience would have been had the developers delved deeper in that department. I do love the game for what it is and respect what these talented creators were going for. Combat in Black Myth Wukong, much like most Asian fighting styles, revolves around distance management. There's a lot of hitting, dodging, and countering. The whole mechanism has a natural flow, with the occasional parry stunning the enemy. It's dancing with timing and precision. Attacking feels immensely satisfying as the hits land. The combat is high-paced and high stakes, which you'd expect from a game that's being compared to the likes of Elden Ring and God of War. The game is tough enough, not too hard so you'll feel intimidated, not too easy so you'll feel bored, and that's how I like it. While I generally enjoy doing every side quest in games, I don't have the time or interest to spend hours on perpetual grinding. That wasn't too much of a hassle when I was a teenager, but I have adult responsibilities in my life now. I will go through the entire map once, defeating every enemy on my path. That investment alone should sufficiently level me up and provide me with useful gear. So let's talk about gear. Black Myth Wukong offers plenty of armor and weapon upgrades that will not only make you feel stronger, they also look badass and original. It's not often a game presents you with new pieces of gear you'll want each time. Every piece is themed according to the chapter you're in, and nothing looks the same. So the player won't be running around for too many hours looking the same. Wukong has one of the best progression systems out there. Every skill point or spark spent has value without making you become too overpowering. The world of Black Myth doesn't have enough exploration to turn you into the Chinese Terminator. Yet if you choose to spend hours grinding by continuously defeating enemies, you can do so. But that feels more like a player's choice outside of the main story. One nice touch that needs mentioning is that you can refund and reconfigure those skill points at any time to completely overhaul your fighting style when a naggingly tough boss demands it. this keeps the gameplay fresh and engaging. The game offers a huge variety in enemies and mini-bosses, and not only that, they also have their own fighting styles to keep you alert. One creature will have an attack combo of 5 hits in close proximity, while another will switch it up with long-distance laser attacks or pounding earthquakes. Various enemies you defeat allow you to absorb their spirit and transform into them for a one-hit attack. Furthermore, you'll encounter more significant adversaries, and after beating them, in which you'll be able to transform for a longer duration, something called might. The larger boss fights are spectacular, gorgeous, and deeply engaging. Overcoming tough enemies makes you feel like a winner. But defeating these enemies requires special items to block or negate some of their grueling attacks. This is something I found out by accident. While it's a good thing that the game doesn't hold your hand, it would have been helpful if at certain points during the journey the player would get a tad more information as to which items to use in various battles and situations. You will die. A lot. But do not despair, for there is no harsh punishment other than you having to restart from your last checkpoint. The player doesn't lose gear or progress. In fact, you can choose to casually roam around pestering enemies to acquire more will, aka money, and level up your character. You won't be collecting junk like spoons, mirrors, and pans. The things you find are the things you will use. If there's one thing undeniable, it's that Black Myth Wukong is an impressively beautiful game full of meticulously crafted jaw-dropping landscapes. The protagonist will venture through luscious forests, scorching deserts, and ancient ruins and icy mountains. It's a visual journey with a lot of charm and atmospherical vistas. It genuinely blew me away. To arrive in these areas, the player will be traversing through multiple caves on which the creators presumably spent countless hours perfecting. They look and sound phenomenal. Now, some visuals may appear overly sharpened to compensate for the upscaling to 4K, but this will only bother you really when sitting too close to your screen. I've always preferred graphics over frame rates. Some people need those 60 frames per second, but I'm completely fine with a stable 30. There are frame dips in quality mode, but not to a level that it annoys. However, I would have liked the game to be a little bit more polished. You want to be able to take in the views by panning the camera without the frame rate stuttering. The random invisible walls are sometimes awkward, but they never really bothered me during my playthrough. Minor nitpicks aside, if you're a fan of ancient Chinese aesthetics like me, this will be a visual feast for your eyes. Monster features and facial animations are incredibly creative and well thought out. The diversity in adversaries in this world should be lauded. With such an authentic visual design, one can only hope for the same attention and care to the audio. And there is. You'll hear the birds sing when deep in the forest. Droplets of water fall on wet stone when venturing through caves, and the winds howl when scaling laborious mountain trails. When giants smash the ground, the earth shatters. When dragons breathe fire, it scorches everything in its path. The music in Black Myth is unquestionably original. From funky arrangements to fully orchestrated epics, the soundtracks deliver. The choir rises up when battling large enemies. The melodies soothe when you visit meditation spots. The music fits the different themes and settings in the game, and they never feel repetitive. There's even a headless bard who'll serenade you for accomplishing noteworthy tasks. Black Myth is rooted in Buddhism, which instantly becomes clear when you encounter countless of old Chinese drawings and paintings that substantially add to the overall quality and craftsmanship. I strongly suggest everyone to really take their time to not only invest in exploration, but also to look around for the many forms of art you'll discover along the way. It shows that these developers love their heritage. As far as the world building goes, this game exudes authenticity. There may not be much liveliness other than the enemies you encounter and the sporadic animals, but the Chinese culture and various art forms are truly impressive. The fighting style is very specific. The court to replenish your health, the shrine to offer incense, the plants, etc. Everything feels believable. Wukong, though linear and without map, captures the essence of exploration better than some games that flaunt the illusion of vastness. Dividing the world in more compact realms, which are still huge, allows for a more streamlined and curated experience. This also offers the player to spend less time in the menu, thus making better use of visual cues and paying better attention overall. The absence of a map or guiding system, however, makes it confusing for the player to know which path progresses the main quest line and which one offers side quests. Even though you'll get to return to these areas, many completionists like myself like to tackle the side content to buff up before progressing through the story. Yes, there are braziers that give you an indication of where the good stuff happens, but they don't feel like a solid guiding system. What I would have liked is that the game had expanded that sparkling trail that guides you to shrines to also indicate where you should go next for the main quests, just like Ghost of Tsushima did. This way at least, the player would have had the option to navigate without it being too obtrusive, in case that this was the reasoning for the developers not to include a map or guiding system. This minor deficit becomes even more apparent when you discover that finding all secret areas is genuinely worthwhile, because they provide not only beautiful locations, but also new enemies and tough bosses. Consequently, choosing to go the extra mile of finding these hidden gems will give you more story, gear, and a secret ending to the game. And as we reach the ending of this review, I'd like to suggest that you do everything the game has to offer, especially if you want to get the most out of the whole experience. Fight all the optional bosses, find those secret areas, use the items you fought so hard to obtain. The rewards are fun and useful. With all minor quirks and oddities aside, Black Myth Wukong is a truly joyful experience. Considering this was Game Science's first attempt at a high-end game, one can't but wonder what they will come up with next. Review score 8.5 out of 10.
Wretched boy, your luck plagues your every step. Never have you made a good choice.